Greetings from Guanajuato, Mexico. I'm here in the Central Highlands, about 4 hours north of Mexico City, the new global headquarters of the Jazz Video Guy channel. My name is Bret Primack, and you may have noticed that I have not been doing much posting lately. Some big changes here on the channel, and I guess in my life as well, now that I've relocated to Mexico, which I absolutely love. This is a fantastic place to live. The town I'm living in is about 200,000 people. A lot of artists here, a lot of musicians. It looks like a colonial city from Europe. It was built on the money from silver. This was one of the largest exporters of silver in the world during 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. So it looks like Europe here in many ways. The people here are absolutely wonderful. The food is great. I am far from your typical American. I mean, obviously people come here, they want to sightsee and they want to eat the food, but I don't think enough people get into the culture here, to really communicating with the people. I am in the process of learning Spanish. I go to school every day. I have Luis is my Spanish teacher, wonderful man. And I don't live in a gated community. I'm right in the middle of it. And I try to talk to as many people as possible. And I have found this to be a very welcoming place. Mexicans are very warm, very hardworking, very family-oriented, fantastic craftspeople. All the bullshit that you've heard about Mexico being dangerous and Mexicans are lazy, and which is you can attribute to a lot of the political stuff happening in the United States. It's just not true. And it's safe here. The cartels are here, but they don't bother most people. And, I mean, people say, how could you move to Mexico? It's so dangerous down there. I say, how can you send your kids to school, to an elementary school in the United States, when there's a probability they could be killed? I mean, come on, people. Let's get real. The United States is hardly paradise. And Mexico is not a perfect country. There's a lot of, I see my dog over there. There's a lot of corruption here. But there's a lot of bullshit in the United States. Overall, for me personally, I'd rather live in Mexico at this point. And I just bought a house. My girlfriend and I just bought a house. I have no intention of living anytime soon. I mean, tomorrow's my 73rd birthday. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here on this planet. Hopefully for a while. I love my life. But we never know what's going to happen. The past year, I mean, a year ago today, I had some chest pains. Went to the emergency room. Oh, you need open heart surgery. September 9th, I had open heart surgery, which is a pretty serious life and death operation. I got very lucky. I received advanced medical care from an incredible surgeon. I recovered in 8 weeks. And I stand a good chance of being here for a while, but who the fuck knows? Anyway, we decided to move to Mexico for a number of reasons, mainly because it's such a cool place to live, love the people, the culture. Tucson, where I spent the past 20 years, definitely feeling the effects of global warming. I found the summers there to be horrible, almost 100 or over every day. Here, some days a little bit above 80, but most of the time the temperature here never gets too cold, never gets too hot. Cost of living, about half of what it is. We got lucky. We sold our houses at the top of the market. Made some money. Here we are. So the transition has been good. But last month, YouTube came down on me. They turned off my monetization. I was making some money each month from my YouTube channel, which has over 2,000 videos. They said too many copyright issues and too much repurposing of content I didn't own. No, copyright issues, I've been dealing with that for 16 years because musicians play standards. And when the YouTube content engine picks that up, I get flagged. And sometimes I have to take the videos down. Sometimes the copyright owner wants to get the money, get the monetization, okay, or share it. But the main issue was that I was taking videos and using them on my channel and profiting from them. And, a lot of the videos that I put up in the past couple of years have been videos people sent me from Europe, collectors and other people. And I said, any copyright issues? No. And then I'll look on YouTube to see if the music is on there. Sometimes it's not that easy to find it. I put it up. The past 3 or 4 years, no issues. Suddenly YouTube comes down and says, okay, no more monetization. And if you want to monetize, you got to get rid of a lot of videos, which I did. I got rid of about 250 videos, some of my favorite videos, which I may repost in different form. But I've reapplied for monetization. I have no idea if it's going to go through or not. But it led me to say, well, I've been doing this for a long time now, 16 years. Most people like it. Some people castigate me for mistakes I make. If I misidentify someone, it's like a serious crime. I'm only human, folks. I make mistakes sometimes. But, in our society, in our culture, very easy to criticize someone for something very minor, just to make yourself important. I would think people would want to support what I do. Most people don't pay for content and don't want to pay for content on the internet. So 99.999% of the people who watch this channel, the 10 to 15,000 people who watch my content every day on YouTube and Facebook, don't pay for it. And they don't subscribe to Patreon, and they don't give me tips. And I'm not someone who wants to constantly, could you please pay me? Could you please send me a contribution? Could you please help me out so that I can keep this going? I just don't do that. And also, most of my content revolves around the Jazz Masters. My channel started when I was in 2004, when I got back into video. I went to film school. I was a filmmaker, but got into the internet. And when I moved out to Arizona, started producing websites. And I was working with people like Sonny Rollins and Billy Taylor and Joe Lovano and Dave Liebman, and they gave me videos, and I started producing videos with the Saxophone Summit with Michael Brecker, and that's how the channel began. And it kind of took off. I was the first jazz poster on YouTube in 2006 as the jazz video guy. Since then, 2,500 videos, lots of views, 50 million views. But most of it has been the masters. The people whose music has touched me for my entire lives. I'm very lucky to know them, to work with them. The masters are leaving. Their music isn't. As long as there are people listening to music and to jazz, they're going to be digging Sonny Rollins and Lee Morgan and Wayne Shorter and Sun Ra and all these great people. But I picked up a copy of Downbeat magazine a couple of weeks ago. I was looking at the critics poll. I don't know, most of these people, the talent deserving of wider recognition. So I decided, why don't I open up the Jazz Video Guide channel to showcase some of these newer people. So I'm in the process of putting that together, reaching out to younger musicians that aren't really very well known, but whose music is great. And more details about that coming. That's probably going to start in September. I'm starting to put that together now. Starting tomorrow, another multi-episode series. I've done 2 in the past couple of months. Actually, I did the Michael Brecker podcast series for 30 episodes. I started in the fall. That ended, I guess, about 2 months ago. And then I did the Miles Davis podcast, Miles 70, focusing on Miles's band after he recorded Bitches Brew with Gary Bartz and Keith Jarrett and Michael Henderson and Jack DeJohnette. I got to hear them live several times. Fantastic music. Gary Bartz is a friend of mine for many years. I interviewed him talking about the music. And I put that together with performance clips. I was linked down there to the playlist. Highly suggest you check that out. Uh, but two things coming up here, uh, both about 10 episodes. Uh, in the mid 60s, when I was a young trumpet player, I was very into Maynard Ferguson. Actually, my three favorites were Dizzy Gillespie, Maynard Ferguson, and Lee Morgan. Uh, I got to see Maynard live in '65. That was an incredible big band. And Mike Abene was on piano. He was in his early 20s. Ronnie Cooper was a baritone sax player. I've since gotten to know Mike and Ronnie over the years in New York City. Mike has become a really good friend of mine. And there was a drummer in the band, Tony Inzalaco. Tony replaced Rufus Jones in the band. A great drummer. And when Maynard disbanded his group, he had a sextet for a little while, but took some time off, moved to England, eventually came back and reestablished himself. But Tony also went to Europe and played with Ben Webster, Oscar Peterson, Dexter Gordon, a lot of people, a lot of great music over there. So he contacted me, and I just did some interviews with him. I actually did the interviews in May. I've just gotten around to editing them into a series of episodes. So that's coming up here in the next couple. It's starting tomorrow, every day for 10 episodes. Drinking some coffee from Oaxaca. Excellent coffee. And then after that, another 10 episode series with Mike Abene. Mike is one of our greatest arrangers. He started out with Maynard's band. A lot of the stuff in the 60s came from Mike. And he's done a lot of stuff. He did a lot of stuff with GRP Records. He actually, when GRP Records was the first jazz record label to produce CDs, their initial release was something called Digital Duke, which was kind of a reworking of Duke Ellington's music. Mike did the arrangements for that. He's done a lot of stuff. More recently, I guess about 10 years with the WDR big band over in Germany. Guest artists would come over there. He would write charts. They would perform them. He turned the baton over to Bob Mintzer last year. So what I'm doing with Mike here is taking each episode, taking a different arrangement and a different performer. He'll talk about the arrangements, talk about the artists. We're talking about artists like Roy Hargrove, Bob Mintzer, John Schofield, Dave Liebman, Joe Lovano. Some really great music and fascinating arrangements. So we're going to learn something about the fine art of arranging from Mike Abene. Now, Mike and Tony Inzalaco were roommates in the Maynard Ferguson band, and I thought it would be a good idea to kick off the series by getting Mike to say a few words about Tony, which follows here, and then starting tomorrow, episodes with Tony, where he talks about Buddy Rich, some interesting stuff about Buddy Rich and Kenny Clark, and Oscar Peterson and Ben Webster and Bobby Darin, and I think you really enjoy the series. So I'm going to turn it over here to Michael Christian Joseph Abene.
I'm trying to remember exactly how I first met Tony, but I always loved playing with him from the get-go. And when Rufus Jones left the band, I recommended Tony. And when he first came on the band, it was Leek Milliman was the bass player. But as soon as Tony came on the band, it brought a whole different feel to the band. You know, his style of playing was more Mel Lewis-ish kind of a thing. I mean, had that. Went to Europe, moved to Europe for years, and he was like I think probably one of the busiest drummers in Europe. Everybody wanted him, and rightfully so. Tony had a great small group feel. He had a great big band. It was like, to me, again, it was like playing with Mel in a way. When he played with the band, he knew what not to play. And it was fun when Maynard would open up the charts. It was great because Tony suddenly, could play that small group feel, keep the time nice and open. I just think Tony made the band sound lighter. It made the band flow a little more. And Rufus is a hell of a drummer, as you know. And he went with Basie and Duke. So, there was obviously But I think for the band, especially the way I felt I was writing for the band, I needed somebody a little different kind of a player to play the charts the way I wanted them played. You know, a lot of guys would say the drummer and the lead trumpet player kind of basically set the tone of the band. And the same with the VDR band. You know, you have Hans Decker on drums and you have Andy Hodder playing lead. That kind of, you know, once they get that groove together, if the lead trumpet player and the drummer lock in, you know, some of the battle is won. You know, that's one less problem you have. But I've been on situations on a record day where that doesn't happen, and it's really and they could be two great players, but they just don't hear the time the same way, or the dynamics the same way. So that's the thing I thought with Tony came on the band was that he really felt the sense of dynamics, which we didn't quite have all the time.
It's possible for a drummer to be both a big band drummer and a small group drummer.
Yes, I don't think it happens all the time, but I think in cases like Tony, yes, and Mel Lewis, yes. Some wonderful drummers who are great players, when you put them with a big band, they just don't. It just something happens, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I've been witness to it. And I know other bands have witnessed it. You get a guy who's, like I said, a fabulous drummer. You put him with a big band, and it just ain't happening. And I'm not sure why. I know some drum teachers at universities who great drummers teach students how to play, but when you put them with the big band, the teacher himself sometimes doesn't know how to tell them how to play with the big band. The first thing they try to do is they try to play everything, which the first thing Tony did was not play everything, and one of the first things Mel did, not play everything. It's just a matter, but I think in some cases, drummer can function as a great big band drummer and also a great small group drummer. You know, some guys I would love to have heard like Tony Williams in a big band. I would love to have heard, you know, some of those guys like Roy Haynes in the big, which he probably did in 1940 something.
Right.
I would be curious to hear those guys play in the band. And I don't want them to sound like they're playing charts. I want them to play the way they play, but know how to handle a band. So Tony never changed his style of playing. For me, he just plays natural. I always thought Tony was just a natural player.